we all agree that we are living a very exceptional moment, a moment in which all the forces, the violence and of patriarchy and capitalism are being displaced in ways that to some extent, or to a great extent, have been active historically. Capitalism is born with genocide, is born with colonization, enslavement, is born with the witch hunts. And it has been a violent patriarchal system all through its history. It has, led to two world wars which have, killed millions of people. But since at least the end of World War II, there was a kind of compromise, that led to some negotiation and some recognition of people's rights, the process of decolonization. All of that is being erased now. And we are, in a sense, entering a new phase of capitalist patriarchy. And I think it's really important for us, to reflect on what it means. And this is the context in which I like to speak about, what kind of struggle, what kind of movement. First of all, I think it is very important to understand that, as I've written and stated, many times over the last year, what we are now seeing in Palestine or in Sudan or the Congo, in a sense, it's an extreme manifestation of a process that in fact has been growing, has been prepared, has been advanced since at least the end of the 1970s, when we have the beginning of what I would call the great counter-revolution against the movement of the 60s, against decolonization, against the feminist movement, anti-war movement. So we have a whole process since the 70s, that culminates with the debt crisis, culminates with the structural adjustment, with this imposition on many countries of the world of conditionalities that have really torn apart the fabric, the social fabric of this country, condemning many, many people, to migration and forcing mass expulsion of people from their ancestral land. And of course, intensifying social conflicts. So this is now is very important to see that what the extreme violence, the genocidal violence, the plans of extermination that we have seen unfolding and continues to this day, in particular in the case of Palestine, but not only beyond Palestine as well. It's not disconnected. It's not an extreme exceptional case, but is in fact part of a whole logic of a capitalism that has now, and for all kinds of reasons that this is not the place to discuss, has no spaces for any form of social democracy. In a sense, is unleashing its violence in a very, very open way. The election and the statements of Donald Trump in the last few days are really exemplary, emblematic of this new phase of capitalism that is now returning, to its most perverse colonial period. And so in this context, then, the question of movements, I think it's very important to see that, yes, demonstration and the creation of international network is fundamental. But at the same time, we also have to begin to rethink what are the mechanisms that on the day-to-day basis are in fact feeding this system, are enabling the capitalist system to reproduce itself. We need to learn how to deactivate capitalism, not only by confronting it in the streets, mass demonstration, but also in terms of changing the organization of social reproduction, because I think that it is in the very process of, structuring a social reproduction that depends on conflict, on hierarchies, on division, on the devaluation of entire population, that we are in a situation in which we find ourselves today. And here I think that the feminist movement has a very, very important, place, because the feminist movement at its best, right? Actually, we should speak of particular parts of the feminist movement, because there are many feminism, and there is a feminism that runs very counter, neoliberal, state-sponsored feminism that runs counter to what I'm actually saying. But, the feminism that in Latin America, for example, is defined as popular feminism, which is rooted in mass struggle. It's a feminism that has really seen as the ground of struggle, the fundamental ground of struggle, as the whole terrain of reproduction, as a terrain that in effect touches every aspect of life. Reproduction is food, is agriculture, is sexual relation, it's health, it's education, it's cultural production. And in a sense, I think it's a movement that potentially, I don't think it is happening now, but only in limited areas, in limited parts of the world, but potentially can actually create a common ground between different movements, and showing the continuity, for example, between economic crisis, between impoverishment, dispossession, and ecological devastation of the planet. And in this sense, really creating network, the kind of network that we began to see in the 1990s with the anti-globalization movement, which I think was very powerful, and for me continue to remain a kind of example of what could be, of the kind of struggle and the kind of circulation of experiences and multiplication of experiences that we can have. And of course also working class movement. I think that unfortunately, particularly in the United States, certainly in the United States, since the end of World War II, we are seeing labor movement that have given up, that have accepted state policy, have actually often collaborated with imperialist politics, with colonization, and have abdicated to their power of making decisions as to what has to be produced, what are the forms of production, that have limited their negotiation, have accepted to limit their negotiation to the question of pay, pension, as important as they are, but have abdicated to the right to decide, no, we are not going to produce bombs. We are not going to produce toxic material that is going to destroy the life of people. I think we need a new kind of labor movement. We need a new kind of labor movement that have a comprehensive vision, in the same way as we need a feminist movement that has a comprehensive vision. Because we need to examine the fact that today, as often it has been stated, the economy itself, capitalist development itself is war. War is not something separate, in fact, from the day-to-day unfolding of economic policy. For instance, the International Division of Labor, as here I really want to remember the work of Maria Mies, who died 2 years ago, in March, and her Patriarchy and Accumulation on a world scale still remain. I hope the younger generation of feminists and everybody reads it, because it's still a very, very powerful work and very instructive. And she has shown that, in fact, there is an international division of labor that, in fact, requires violence. That war and violence are not, state violence are not something separate from the day-to-day unfolding of economic relations, because it's an international division of labor that in fact is built on colonial relations, that in fact is built on the fact that only certain parts of the world population have a right to exist, and that the to a great extent, those who are producing the condition of existence, a means of existence for the world, are not those who actually benefit from them, no? And so that in order to dismantle, deactivate the mechanism that reproduce capitalism with all its conflict, its violence, we need to actually not only, again, fight on a broad front, and certainly on international front. Internationalism is today a must. Internationalism is a must because never it has been so true that the global is in the local and vice versa. That today, the globalization permeates every aspect of our life. And re-examine in the community, restructure in the community forms of reproduction that are more autonomous, that are delinking, the famous delinking from the capitalist system. This is now something that is extremely necessary, and I think is one of the conditions, in fact, to be able to reverse this onslaught that we are witnessing today, where in fact we have openly, under everybody's eyes, processes of extermination of people who are in the way of the most savage assault on the resources of the world. For example, Palestine, we know that behind this project of mass expulsion, this incredible statements that Trump has made, and the politics of the Israeli government, there is the reality of mass deposit of natural gas that has been discovered since 2002 off the coast of Gaza. And now not only this wild dream of turning Gaza into a Riviera for the world, for the rich of the world, but also appropriating the riches that are in the sea. So I think that we need really a movement that are acting on several fronts, that are acting in the fronts of the communal organization of reproduction and the creation of new forms of solidarity, the creation of new forms of commoning of reproductive work that enable also for people to gain the strength, more strength to confront the state, and at the same time, the creation of international network whereby we can join our effort, with those, across the world that are now being, forced to evacuate, leave their ancestral land, are now being, the object of this unleashed incredible violence that, it's now unfolding across the world. I will stop here and, be happy to join. I hope I can join some of the debate that will take place after John Holloway's talk.